Welcome friends, in this video will Xn coin go from 1 cent to $1? We will analyze it. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and please watch to the end to understand. When we evaluate the price action from the perspective of the Elliott wave theory, we can clearly observe that the price is currently progressing within the second corrective wave. This process is a completely natural development, according to Elliott theory, as after a strong first impulse wave. The price typically pulls back slightly due to profit-taking and some short-term uncertainties among market participants. The current second wave movement points exactly to this situation. Once this second wave process is completed, theoretically, the third impulse wave, which is expected to be the strongest and longest, should begin. Third waves are the periods in Elliott theory where the most momentum is gathered and prices rise rapidly. Therefore, remaining patient and waiting for the completion of this second wave is a highly critical strategy for investors. In my personal opinion, it is important not only to rely solely on technical analysis criteria, but also to pay attention to some potential triggers coming from fundamental analysis. Especially if there is a possibility of a spot listing on the Binance exchange, such an event could have a very serious and rapid impact on the price. As you know, there was previously a listing on the Binance Futures platform, and that event led to significant price movement. Now, the possibility of a spot listing seems like a logical and expected next step. Usually, the process that starts with Binance Futures listings is eventually reflected in the spot market as well. We've clearly observed this cycle in many past examples. If such a spot listing is indeed announced, all the Fibonacci retracement levels we've marked on the chart could be surpassed one by one. Especially with increased investor interest and easier access for users of a major exchange, the price could not only reach current targets, but also challenge much higher resistance levels. When the third wave begins, we may see a price movement that not only reaches current Fibonacci extension targets, but also pushes toward more extreme levels. Especially with major news flows like a Binance spot listing, it wouldn't be surprising for the price to rise toward the psychologically significant $1 range. In fact, such major listings can push prices far beyond technical targets, driven by investor psychological expectations. That's why my personal expectation is that the strong momentum starting with the third wave in technical analysis, combined with spot listings on major exchanges like Binance, could lead to a much faster and sharper price increase. We've seen many times in the past that, under the influence of such developments, upward movements that would normally take months can occur within days or even hours. In summary, the Elliott wave is technically about to enter its third phase, which by nature will be a strong upward wave. If a fundamental catalyst like a Binance spot listing also emerges, not only the Fibonacci targets, but also price levels above the major investor expectation of $1 could become quite likely. But looking only at the Elliott wave is not enough. We must also consider other metrics to ensure the analysis is complete. Stay tuned. When we examine the chart from a broader perspective, a highly significant formation stands out. The current price movements indicate that a cup formation, one of the classic technical analysis patterns, is in the process of forming. These types of cup formations are among the structures that, after a prolonged recovery and accumulation phase, can signal the beginning of a major upward movement. A cup formation typically represents a structure where the price, after experiencing a long decline, forms a bottom and then gradually recovers, starting to climb back toward its previous highs. The chart we're observing right now clearly suggests that we are in the middle of this process. After dropping from a previous peak, the price went through a long period of horizontal consolidation and is now gradually recovering, climbing back toward that peak. Particularly in such cup formations, the stages where the price approaches the completion of the cup are of critical importance. This is because the price approaches a strong resistance level that it previously failed to break. And if it manages to break above this level, it can trigger a sharp and powerful upward move as all the previously accumulated supply is cleared. In technical analysis, this breakout moment is referred to as a momentum opportunity for investors. If the price successfully completes this cup and breaks above it in a sustained manner, a very important technical confirmation is achieved. This can not only lead the price back to its previous highs, but also pave the way for new all-time highs. Psychologically, investors interpret the breakout of a previous high as a signal to start new waves of buying, which can push the price upward rapidly. Moreover, the targets of cup formations generally imply an upward move equivalent to the depth of the cup. That is, by measuring the distance between the highest and lowest points of the cup, a breakout can technically aim for a rise equal to that distance. In the current chart, this distance spans quite a large range. Therefore, if the formation plays out, we might witness not just an ordinary rise, but a highly satisfying and broad upward movement. Another factor supporting this process is the psychological atmosphere developing across the market. If the price becomes viewed as an asset that is breaking through major resistances, demand will increase, and many investors who have been on the sidelines will want to enter the market. This will act as an additional catalyst, accelerating the price rise. To summarize, the cup formation developing on the chart is the result of a long period of patience and recovery. If the price completes the cup and breaks upward, it could aim not only for technical targets but also for much stronger psychological and fundamental targets. And once the price breaks the cup, the likelihood of it reaching $1 becomes much more realistic. A notable structure is currently forming in the MACD indicator. When we look closely at the finer details, it is clearly observable that an upward movement has started between the indicator lines. At this point, the distance between the MACD line and the signal line has narrowed significantly, and this narrowing suggests that a potential bullish crossover could be very near. Such a crossover is a frequently observed and highly reliable bullish signal in technical analysis. Positive crossovers between the MACD and the signal line indicate that buying pressure is starting to build and that sellers are losing strength. At the same time, the MACD line attempting to position itself above the zero line is also an important detail. Because a crossover occurring above the zero line signals that the market's bullish expectation may not be limited to the short term, but could also carry the potential for a medium to long-term trend shift. Such a crossover often leads not only to a breakout of a resistance zone, but also to a significant shift in investor sentiment. Market participants gain confidence, new buyers enter the market, and price action accelerates. The current behavior of the MACD, especially if supported by volume data, could be a strong indicator that the price may reach much higher levels in the coming days. In technical analysis, for an indicator signal to be valid, it's not enough for the formation alone to occur. It must also be supported by volume. A crossover accompanied by strong volume generally shows that significant buying pressure is entering the market and that price can easily break through resistance zones. At this point, it's important to consider several possible developments. If a clear crossover between the MACD and signal line occurs, and this crossover is supported by increased volume, we may see the price quickly rise toward nearby resistance levels. Initial targets are typically previous highs. However, if the price breaks these levels with volume, the uptrend could gain strong momentum, and new highs may start being discussed. In such a scenario, the FOMO effect may also come into play. Investors, driven by the fear of missing out, could make aggressive purchases and accelerate the rally. If the crossover is weak or the price struggles at resistance, we could see a period of sideways consolidation in the market. Such sideways movements are often precursors to large breakouts. As price consolidates and tightens, it eventually breaks sharply in one direction. Based on the current technical structure, the likelihood of this breakout being to the upside appears higher. However, we must not ignore a negative scenario. If the MACD lines diverge again before a crossover occurs, and the histogram starts growing again, selling pressure may increase and prices could initiate another downward move. Therefore, this critical threshold should be monitored closely, and positions should not be taken without confirmation. Additionally, psychological levels will play an important role here. If the MACD moves above zero and the price breaks psychological resistance zones, market confidence will rise significantly. This encourages investors to act more boldly and supports the uptrend. If this signal coincides with significant news flow, sharp and rapid price increases are likely to occur. The current structure forming on the MACD could be signaling that the market is on the verge of a new trend. Because a MACD crossover above the zero line is not just a temporary move, but can also be seen as the precursor to a much larger structural shift. In other words, this may not just be a rally that lasts a few days. It could be the beginning of a process in which the medium and long-term direction changes entirely. Yes, friends, I hope you liked the video. If you subscribe to my channel and like the video, more videos will be coming. Be careful in your investments, analyze the risks correctly, and always take strategic steps. I will be with you with different analyses, investment opportunities, and technical information in my videos. I wish you all a lot of profit. See you soon.